fruit and fruit juice and table sugar can be for healing the body.
That used to be my diet.
When you cut out the heavy fats, the processed junk, like, okay, so like white rice and fruit juice and table sugar, that's not processed junk at all, guys. So we're all mistaken there. Processed junk and animal products, and give your body clean, easy to digest carbs. You are giving it the fuel it actually needs to repair itself. This kind of high carb, low fat diet has been shown to improve insulin sensitivity, reduce inflammation, and help with weight loss. This guy is delusional beyond belief. Even though it goes against everything we've been told about sugar and refined carbs, I don't know where he gets that from, because everything tells us that it's wonderful. Dr. Walter Kempner, now this guy was famous for the rice diet, is a perfect example. He used white rice, fruit, and sugar to reverse high blood pressure, kidney disease, and even diabetes back in the 1940s. Whoa. The truth is, most of our modern health problems come from high fat, high protein diets that overload the liver and pancreas. Carbs aren't the enemy. In fact, they are the body's preferred source of energy. When you give your body the right fuel in the right context, amazing things can happen. I've even seen people drop weight, get off medications, and reverse years of chronic issues just by simplifying their diet this way. It might sound crazy. Wow. But sometimes the simplest approach really is the most effective. Okay. Now he doesn't stop there though. He doubles down, because I actually explained to him the process of what carbs do to the liver, like the process of what the liver actually does with carbohydrates is turn them into a fatty triglyceride tissue that actually enters the bloodstream, and fructose especially does this about 7 times more than the average glucose. But when it crosses the blood-brain barrier in the brain, that actually directly gives you brain fog, and will later on lead to many other disease. And of course, if your liver gets fatty enough, it actually develops into NASH, and then other chronic diseases after that. So now he doubles down again, of course. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is mainly by excess fat, not fruit. Okay, so I don't know where he gets this crap information from, but oh well. Fructose only becomes harmful when combined with a high-fat diet. Okay, the rice diet created by Dr. Kempner at Duke and used for nearly 70 years reversed high blood pressure, kidney failure, and of course he's just repeating himself there. No meat, no fat. His patients did not lose muscle or organ tissue. They healed. Yeah, bullshit. Claims that carbs lower ATP, which they do, fructose in particular, or cause brain fog, ignore basic human physiology, apparently. This guy has no clue what human physiology is. Glucose is the body's main source of energy, especially for the brain. What an idiot. DHA and other fatty acids can be made from plant sources like ALA or obtained by algae. You don't need meat to get protein or build hormones. What an absolute moron. Countless people thrive on low-fat, plant-based diets. I don't think they thrive at all, pal. Meat consumption has actually risen globally over the last century. What an absolute moron. Oh my God. This is the thing, the problem with these people. They are absolutely, completely ignorant. They're completely ignorant. When, meat consumption around the world has gone down, and everyone admits that, alongside the rise in chronic disease. What a crock. The real cause isn't fruit or rice, it's processed junk, high fat, and sedentary living. Wow. What do you think of that, fellas?
Mate.
You
start, Jonathan. You go.
I think he looked at the graph of meat consumption. He's like looked it upside down by accident. I was like, well, right, it's wearing glasses. You can't see because it's got a vitamin B1 deficiency. It's none in refined grains and rice. So he's probably looking at it. He's put his glasses on, but he's put his glasses on the wrong way. They've got some sort of mirror effect, and he's looking at it all backwards.
Yeah, I think either that or he's twisted his head upside down. Because I mean, that's it. I mean, you can look at any graph. You can just Google any sort of graph around the world. It'll still show you like meat consumption's gone down like a lead balloon, you know, while all these diseases have gone up. I mean, he thinks I don't understand basic physiology, and he actually did give me another comment after that, and he said like he's improved his eyesight. And I thought, well, you know, big freaking deal. You know, look, I've been in remission for like 10 years. So there must be something to it, you know. But I mean, absolutely, just he's so ignorant. He's absolutely devoid of anything, like completely ignorant to what's actually going on around the world, like meat consumption. What a crop that is. Completely devoid of any knowledge in human physiology and nutrition at all. What the liver does, what glucose or anything does. I mean, how can you be that freaking ignorant? Honestly, it's unbelievable.
I think there's two big arguments we have, which I'd say probably underpin what the carnivore movement would say in opposition to what he said. The main one's going to be the Randall cycle.
Yeah.
And the other one is going to be that we have a finite, limited store of glucose in our body through muscle glycogen. So if we look at muscle glycogen biopsies in humans, we might be able to store, I don't know, depends where you look at your size, obviously, but so like, say 500 grams of muscle glycogen, maybe 60 to 90 grams of liver glycogen. Okay, great. What happens if you're eating 1,000 grams of carbs a day because you're a high-performance athlete and you need that much food? Well, you're not going to be able to. There's an overfill, there's a surplus. Whereas with fat that we take in, it gets transferred into adipose tissue, which we then oxidize for energy. Be great. We could just gain more fat, but we don't see us gaining, people with the carnivore diet, exponentially more like grams of body fat or adipose tissue over a set period of time. We do see that with carbs. So, in isolation, to summarize, I mean, a carb versus a fat-heavy diet. Yeah, either one is going to mitigate the level of random cycle activation. But like you said, you know, what about the AGEs, about conversion of these sort of glucose polymers into, you know, protein tissues that are integrated in our cells in our body that cause aging. The more we age, the less our mitochondria are in effect and efficient. The less they're efficient, the less we're able to execute our blueprint through evolution to get us to adapt over our terrain, our environment, our food, our living circumstances. So effectively, you end up with a diet which has less yield of energy per unit of carbons, and it causes more damage long term. And we see that in studies as well, brain fog as well. George Ede, you know, we can look at work like that. Chris Palmer, cognitive decline seems to be evident in people that have a high carbohydrate diet. I see this myself. Nutrient density is going to be lower. Nutrient absorption is going to be lower on a high carbohydrate diet as well. And like you said about the processed food, well, white rice is a processed food. In fact, it has to be enriched with suboptimal variations of vitamins and minerals and things.
Yeah,
just shows true to the fact that, you know, if it's such a good healthy food, why would we have to fortify it? But we still see with deficiencies on a diet where we might look at their macronutrients or micronutrient spectrum, let's say 100% RDA, why are they still getting deficiencies or symptoms of these deficiencies? And these people aren't going out there having serum blood tests and tissue selective biopsies of different vitamins and things within the body. They're just saying, oh, I feel pretty good. Yeah, you've blocked one part of the information, but you're also losing weight, so that could be part of it as well. If you're over fat, you're going to be overburdened, you're more likely to be asthmatic, more congested. You're going to have an easier time healing to some degree. That just comes through the fact of just eating less, because I mean, yeah, if you're going to be eating a sugar-based diet, you're going to be eating kilos and kilos of food a day to reach satiety.
Oh, yeah.
What we know about that is, so nutrient density is a better indicator of health, of long-term health outcomes, than in positive body composition outcomes, as opposed to food volume. I mean, I can tell Joff right now to drink 10 litres of water, or I can tell him to hydrate through fat and get exactly what he needs through the fat, and let his body deal with the rest naturally through its innate adaptive systems. What's he going to feel better with, water or the fat? It's an easy conversion for me anyway. What do you think, Joff?
Yeah, look, I agree with all the points, but to add on to what you've already said, Jonathan, the other thing that you've also got to consider are the toxins and defense chemicals that are in your carbohydrate-based foods. So anything that's plant-based, really, you're going to have to take that into consideration. So, rice, I mean, while for a lot of people it might seem, void of plant toxins, you've still got issues of glyphosate. What else do you find in rice as well? Lectins, basically, oxalates, that's right. And arsenic, yep. So it's largely going to be Randle cycle driven. That's where the inflammation, I think, is going to occur for most of our disease processes. But which one would you rather pick? Would you rather pick the diet that contains, bioavailability, which is, the carnivore diet, or would you rather go down the route of, eating a plant-based diet, which you've got, all those issues that you've mentioned, plus the plant toxin and the defense chemicals? I think it's an easy pick. I don't know. It sounds logical to me, but I don't know, logic these days.
Look at you now versus a few years ago. Clearly,
exactly.
Going backwards in terms of your health.
I tell you what, I did that carb diet. In my uni days, what I used to do was I used to have a bowl of rice in the morning, condensed milk, and Milo powder on top of it, and in uni, the only thing I could afford was the noodles, the cup noodles. So I did it.
Yeah.
I did the sugar diet. It didn't bode so well.
No, that's right. No, I was the same in uni. I just ate crap. I ate whatever I could afford, So and I did the same after the earthquake as well. Just ate what we could find. But I mean, like you said before, Jonathan, is that the whole. I mean, ancestrally, right? The whole job of the liver, basically, when the fruit is in season, and it's not like the fruit that we have today either. It's not genetically modified, ultra sweet, higher in fructose and all that sort of stuff. Like a watermelon is not this bloody big, in the wild. You go to Africa, it's like a small, bitter-looking little apple size. That's what a watermelon is. But the whole job of the liver is to turn that into fat for winter, so that we put on fat and we use that for fasting periods. That's the whole job of it. If your liver is not producing fat, it means it's damaged from carbohydrates. If it's not producing fat from carbohydrates, it means it's damaged. When they talk about and part of that process is to actually slow down it does lower the ATP production, especially fructose, because it doesn't want you burning through that energy. It wants you to store it as fat. That's why it's slow. That's why it interferes. It deliberately interferes with the ATP production. That's its bloody job. It's unbelievable just how ignorant these idiots are. And honestly, I think what's happening at the moment is these fructards, because that's what they are. They're fructarded. They're brain fogged from all that fructose. And I think basically what we're going to see, there's going to be survivors, the meat eaters, and these otherwise. I think they're all just going to die off, honestly. They're just heading. They're like lemmings, right? They're all jumping off the cliff.
Well, fortunately, yeah. Sorry, Joff. Karen, Joff.
Oh, quick one. And for I remember in the comment he was saying that you see people thriving on these plant-based diets. Well, if you look at the lifestyles that a lot of these so-called people that thrive on a plant-based diet, there's obviously going to be things that, yeah, other compounding factors, like, you know, a lot of them go and exercise, a lot of them don't smoke, a lot of them don't drink, a lot of them are doing, you know, they're already doing other things to improve their health and longevity. So it's like, you know, yeah, it's a hard gauge, but to me, it's a clear pick, which would be a more optimal diet to choose from. Sorry, guys.
Well, that's right. I mean, well, one diet, like the carnivore diet, you've got like essential nutrients. Okay, I mean, building the brain. You've got so many things that amino acids and everything that you need to build the brain and the body. And the other one is completely devoid of any nutrients. So which one are you going to choose? You'd have to be a bloody moron. So,
Yeah, bang on. I mean, I've had one clinical application experience of someone doing better on a high vegetable sort of fruit diet. Yes, and I'm going to say it's a very limited example, and there's a reason why I say that. So there's a man that I used to work with when I volunteered at the cancer ward, palliative care ward. He had 2 children and 1 newborn baby, so 3 children and a wife, and he basically had this cancer, this disease, where slowly his body was shutting down. It became kind of like me in a state, but obviously I can go around and move and stuff like that, you know. But it's like a nervous system lymphatic issue. Like he couldn't move. He'd become paralyzed slowly from the waist up to his hands, pretty much. He could just about eat and talk at the end. Now he is following a vegetarian diet-ish up to that point. But for him to transition to a carnivore diet whilst he's going through cancer probably wouldn't be a good thing. He wouldn't have been able to adapt very well, because when you're being nuked with all these chemicals and drugs and things, this isn't medical advice or anything suggestive of that, so don't take it as anything. You know, your body's not going to adapt very well transition to a carnivore diet properly. So what he did was effectively eat a diet high in leafy greens and vegetables. So in effect, his intake of food was much less. His overall just mass of macronutrients in general was much less. Therefore, he was less inflamed. So in his specific example, you know, very rare. It's actually a better thing for him just to carry on what he's doing, just not eat very good food.
Well,
he's eating.
You still get the benefits of fasting. Yeah, actually, that's, you know, I was talking to Harry about that the other day. Actually, it's, you know, it's most of the societies around the world that are vegetarian, like 95% of the world's vegetarians are so because of economic reasons, not for philosophical reasons. But you know, they still get because they just can't eat enough food. They're all very small in structure. Their bones and everything, they're all very weak compared to, you know, a meat eater, and underdeveloped. Basically, their brains are underdeveloped and everything as well. But they still have some benefit from like fasting benefits, like autophagy and things like that, because of the fact that they simply just don't have enough food to eat. You know.
So, yeah, that's
but you know, one of the, I mean, like India, for example, I was talking about this with Dr. Abs the other day. You know, like he grew up in India, and you know, we were saying like it's touted as this, you know, this successful vegetarian sort of country, but you know that was only something that was introduced after British colony. But now they have the highest rate of chronic disease and diabetes in the world. So it's obviously not working, is it?
Yeah, I mean, one of the main issues that they sort of purport is that, oh, we can't get good quality meat, or it's just not accessible. And I do completely agree with that. Yeah. The Indian geographical location of meat produce is abysmal. The legislation is perhaps the worst in the world, or one of the worst countries in the world, you know, in terms of like volume, size country. Now, when we look at data on, so this is going back like 7 or 8 years ago. We knew this at least, because like this is when I was studying it. We look at data from animal welfare and meat produce, and you know how it's got chemicals in it and hormones and, you know, stuff to make the cows go so they don't die instantly, sort of thing when they're born. They pump a lot more crap in the Indian stuff than say the American stuff or the English or Australian stuff, for example, in New Zealand as well. So when you look at these stats, guys, it says, "Oh, global cattle causes this problems, and it's this many cases of this." And well, the reality is, if you have all the countries, you sort of took out the ones which are the biggest detriment, you actually find that the animal produce is actually much more sustainable. The way
Oh,
that's, for
absolutely.
example, over here we have lamb, as I'm sure you do over there, Australia and UK and New Zealand. A lot of our lamb is actually better produced in New Zealand than it is over here in the UK, because the way they produce it over there is more sustainable. It's actually
Yeah.
better for us in the UK to import it from New Zealand, because the way they feed the animals or something like that. Not very scientific, but that's what we sort of found. So that's why we get a lot of our New Zealand lamb. So yeah, I mean, part of it is the dietary aspect, the accessibility aspect, the legislation aspect. But countries like this aren't going to invest a lot of time and energy into getting more livestock and cattle if there's such a strong disposition to sort of say, "Oh, meat is bad." So what we need to be doing as collectively, like everyone's probably watching this, is do something to sort of reach other locations in the world. So we've got Carnivore UK sort of thing set up slightly. Australia's getting more popular now, guys like yourself. US has tons of carnivores in it. So what we need is more people. Like if you're watching this, you're in India, you're in China, wherever it is in the world. I don't know. In your carnivore and you've got a bit of time spare to do some live streams and talk about your diet, do it. Spread your message, because that's what Dave Mack's doing at the moment with the Japanese people. He posted out recently saying, "Oh, I do the carnivore diet. Why don't you do it?" And people say, "Oh, I don't do the carnivore diet because I'm Japanese," as if it's like I'm different to everyone else. It's not our thing.
Well, I
We need
think
to make that cultural shift.
Dave's. Yeah, I mean that's Dave's experience, but I guess I never had that experience in Japan. Honestly, I like the Japanese love meat. I mean they do love rice and stuff like that as well. But that's something especially. I mean they have their junk food problems too. Over the last century, they've had the introduction of seed oils and the introduction of like instant noodles. They're really very famous. All around the world. The Japanese instant noodles sort of crap. But they also have one of the highest rates of eczema. Skin problems. When I was over there teaching, I had like half of my class, the kids, they would have skin issues. Like eczema. And that's brought on by white flour and instant noodles and all this sort of crap as well.
Beef bread, yeah,
and not to mention the fact that they come in those styrofoam bowls and everything like that. You get from convenience stores food and crap like that. But generally speaking, they love meat, and they always have. And so that the whole blue zone lie is just absolute nonsense. But yeah, anyway, that's another subject. But yeah, there's just so much going on. Like, it's actually far more sustainable and environmentally friendly to have regenerative, like cattle farming or ruminant animal farming. Like they actually create the topsoil for us to grow things. That nothing would grow without ruminant animals. Simple as fact, nothing would. So, and like you wouldn't have rainfall. Like they keep saying, like methane is like stop the cows farting. Like vegans fart far more than a cow does. How would you just get rid of them? That would be great. But methane is part of the rain cycle. Without methane, you wouldn't form clouds. You wouldn't get rainfall. And then you talk about their droppings and urine and everything like that. That becomes our topsoil. They stomp it into the ground. They massage it into the ground. Without topsoil, what are you going to grow? It's monocrop farms that are destroying the environment. They take up far more space than grazing ruminants that can graze on hillsides and so on and so on. Like goats and lamb and sheep and cows, and they actually. I saw a documentary recently. They're actually reintroducing buffalo into Europe because what's happening to the area is they are actually regenerating the forest, because they also, because they're such great mulch machines, they take care of like dead plant material that could start fires or be just burning material. but they also create more topsoil so that more plants can grow, and they keep vegetation down as well. So over vegetation is a problem. That's why, we like grass, for example, out here out in countryside Australia, the grass grows a certain height and then it sort of dies off at the top and it becomes a fire hazard. If you've got enough cattle, it takes care of all that. And what farmers are doing here is, instead of buying it, well, because it's so expensive and difficult to run with enough cattle, they just burn it all off. So they have to do controlled burns a lot. Whereas if you had cattle, you wouldn't need to do that. So these people that keep saying like there's environmental reasons, or there's the only energy you need is glucose and all this other crap. Every single one of their arguments, it's absolute ignorance. They are just the most ignorant people. It's unbelievable. You might as well put a wool coat over them and call them sheep.
Yeah,
It's sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sad.
It's crazy.
You know what I've been doing as well, and I think it'll be a good thing that other carnivores do this as. I'm not saying that you should, but I think it's a good idea. But I think when you get to a point where you want to start talking about the carnivore diet online and start promoting this way of eating, I think it would be good to actually get yourselves in the middle of actually talking to the farmers and talking to where you get your source of food from. The other thing too is there's also another untapped source that I think has been stripped away from people's minds because we're so civilized nowadays, but we've got quite a lot of game, and I'm just speaking here in Australia. I'm sure it'll be the same in other places too, but you've got so much game here to hunt, like a lot. So when people say, eating meat is unsustainable, or eating a carnivore diet is unsustainable, when you think about it in a very traditional sense where you get your food from the supermarket and that's it, yeah, you're going to be limited. But when you put yourself in the actual reality of the world and what you are designed to do, like you've got hands, you've got feet to travel to places, you've got the ability to the world is your oyster, basically. Why not tap into the resources as well? And so I am actually considering getting into hunting. That is something that I do want to, at least once in my life to get involved in.
Yeah, there's a lot of game here in Australia. You got wild
thousands,
deer,
hundreds of thousands,
deer, camels. Even camels are like out.
Camels, yeah.
But there's so many two-legged deer too. The kangaroos. They're just giant rabbits. And if you don't cull them off, what the government does here in Australia is they hire hunters to go out and cull them off because their numbers grow too fast.
Too much. Yep. Yep.
So why not use the meat?
Absolutely.
Which is wrong. I think it's wrong.
I've got some roux in the fridge right now.
Yeah, so it's not bad meat. It's a bit gamey.
No, it's not.
But
you can be cooked right. Yeah.
It's not for me. I prefer something more fatty, like the ruminant.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it keep the ribs apart, so it's all good. There's a comment here. I just want to get to this. When the USA is home to the buffalo, the grasslands were healthy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like before the last 100 years or a couple of 100 years ago, a few hundred years ago, there were over like 60 million buffalo roaming across America. Right, far more than there are now. Or any ruminants altogether now in America. And when they went in, and when farmers started growing crops, like in the Midwest, and they actually created, back in I think it was the 20s and 30s, like there was a great dust storm. There was just like, it turned into a big dust bowl because they stripped it of topsoil. once they killed off the buffalo and they started doing these crop farms, these big crop farms, they created a massive dust bowl in the middle of America, and it's still trying to recover topsoil there now. And unfortunately, what they're using is more man-made sort of fertilizers, which don't work. Okay, they're all made from hydrocarbons and mostly petrochemicals and things like that. I'm trying to put that back into the soil. It just doesn't work. You need ruminant animals to do that for it. We can't do that stuff. They're the perfect. They're the perfect mulching machine. So again, it's just ignorance, just absolute freaking ignorance. And so I also lined up a few other things. Like I've got, like the NIH actually does have some pretty good stuff on it. There's some studies here. I've got there's 10 here actually talking about fructose in the liver and but we've already covered that, so I don't think we'll go into that. But let's have a look at that short video. I'll show you guys. There's a couple of documentaries. You guys actually. Kristen Kearns. I'm not sure if you guys ever heard of her. Kristen Kearns. She's a dentist. She did a heap of research into the funding of studies by the sugar industry. And last year I did a reactionary video to her. She has a great lecture on the CrossFit website, YouTube site. She's absolutely amazing. But there's so many documentaries out there talking about sugar as well. And actually I'll give you a short example here. It's I think it's not too bad. So I think this would be good for the audience, hopefully. Let me see. Which one are we at? Sugar coated, I think it is. Yep.
Got an hour and 10-minute long documentary about the sugar diet.
Yeah.
Got like an over an hour long documentary style video about the sugar diet.
Yeah, well, there's heaps of them. There really is. There's a lot of documentaries out there talking about how bad sugar is, and and so on. But obviously these fructards out there, they don't watch them, I guess. But here, I just have a look at this clip. This guy is teaching kids.
Sugar is actually made up of two molecules, glucose and one molecule of fructose. They are different, and the body handles these differently. Glucose is an energy source that can be metabolized by all our organs in our body, including our brain. Fructose, on the other hand, is almost exclusively metabolized by the liver. So when you consume a sugary beverage, the liver is flooded by fructose. I like to call this the tsunami effect. As a result, the liver is overwhelmed and start to convert this sugar to fat. All this excess sugar to fat conversion can increase our risk of fatty liver, diabetes, and heart disease.
Okay, just to reiterate, this is the liver. It's not that fruit. It's really the amount of poison that people are eating today. It's not, we're supposed to have it 2 to 4 weeks before winter. It's supposed to make us fat for the fast. So the problem is we don't. Especially when you talk about processed foods, they always have the combination of plant oils for one, like seed oils, and then you've got just straight up sugar, and the combination with fructose as well. Most of your processed foods will have all three of those combinations, and eating, even if you're I know some of these sugar diet idiots are trying to justify it now. If you just eat fruit, eat fruit all day, every day. It's just, this is what happens. It's insane, absolutely insane.
If you made a smoothie with just fruits, would that be worse than just eating a fruit?
So if you eat an orange, how many oranges do you eat?
One.
One? If you do an orange juice, how many oranges do you need to make an orange juice?
A lot.
Much more. When you chew on food, it just goes slow and it takes a while. The delivery is different. But if you start to make a juice, you'll have that bang tsunami effect. The relationship between sugar and liver is not a new story. If you think about the Egyptian, they were the one who actually started to force feed a goose. Then the Roman, they continued to do that. Now the French take credit for the foie gras, but they were all doing the same thing. They were force-feeding sugar or carbohydrate to birds, and that was creating a fatty liver. The credit to the American industry is actually to reinvent that industry, but instead of doing that with bird, they do it with us. And those beverage, those soda, are a pleasant feeling that you don't even notice, but that lead to exactly the same things to get a foie gras. And those beverages are just an amazing tool because you just enjoy it at the same time. You don't have any force feeding.
You know, this was me 5 years ago, and it's still me. Because I confess I'm a waistline watcher from way back. Well, that's enough for today. Now for a lively lift. Ice-cold Coca-Cola. There's no waistline worry with Coke, you know. Actually, this individual-sized bottle has no more calories than half a grapefruit.
Yeah, so I mean that's just a bit of an example, but yeah, that's called sugar coated. You know, people, if you should go check it out, it's scary stuff. And like if you think back, have a look at. I mean, we when I did a live a couple of years, about a year and a half ago now, I guess. But we're talking about yeah, some of the advertising that you get like sports stars and say like, oh look, this I eat this cereal, I eat this, I drink this Milo, I drink that, and got to be made of Milo. It's absolutely everywhere. And these like sugar diet idiots, all they're doing is just promoting the standard Western diet. That's all they're doing. You know, low fat, high sugar diet. You know, as soon as we went low fat, that's when all the diseases just went from out of control. It's crazy. It's low fat diets are a genocide. That's what I'm going to say. It's absolute genocide. So
these things as well, they're a perfect gateway to just processed food. I mean, at what point your body starts to become depleted, you sort of feel a bit weak eventually. How long it lasts and how long it takes, I don't know. Very individual, but what happens then? So you're eating, I don't know, 2 kilos of fruit and vegetables a day, high sugar, low fat, low protein. All right, where are you going to go from there? You know, you can't do anything with it. So you're pretty much screwed at that point. That's when people go from same with vegetarianism, they go from like a vegetarian to vegan diet, and they start making processed foods because it just tastes like crap. They realise I'm not being satiated here, so what can I do? What concoction can I put together to, they end up just eating processed foods anyway. That's what we'll see. It'll be a processed food diet next, and it'll be low fat craze all over again.
Well, that's what I mean. Even now, like that sugar diet, they're like the idiots that promoting it the most, like they're talking like gummy bears and all sorts of crap like that. What the hell? Seriously, and people are buying this shit. Of course, I mean it's popular, of course, because everyone wants to think like, oh yeah, they're justifying their addiction to sugar. That's it. They want to feel good about eating all that crap. That's all.
But what's different though, DC? Because back then, like before this whole the sugar diet, you've had massive companies promoting sugary things with these athletes. And a lot of these athletes are promoting it like, there was a big craze, vitamin water. That was a huge one. Pure, loaded with sugar. but it was, I
Right.
can't remember which athlete it was, but because you had this image of an athlete drinking this basically sugary drink, you know, you're gonna avoid getting the diseases because, hey, I'm just gonna. Usain Bolt was drinking it. You know what I mean? Like it's
Right.
it's
If
it's
they
nothing
if
new.
these athletes can drink it, that means I can do it too, and I'll be fit and lean, and I'll be just as healthy as they are. But it's all bullshit, you know. And like these athletes don't care about health, and they certainly don't care about anyone else's health either. You know, look how big Red Bull is now. Like they are sponsors on every sport. Like they have the biggest and best athletes in every sport, motorsports, all sorts of everything, right? But and, you know, it's insane, and it's. I mean, it's just. It really is. It's the whole world is just nuts at the moment.
There's been only one athlete that I've seen in the past 5 to 10 years sort of spoken out about it. It sort of held their ground. And that was Cristiano Ronaldo. So he's on a conference. And,
Yes.
Basically, what they do is you guys probably know, but they'll tub to these conferences. They got the bottle of Pepsi or whatever it is.
Put it up there, yeah.
They Gatorade, whatever. And he's like, no, don't drink this. Put it down. Picked a bottle of water and put it on the desk. And I'm like, yeah, good for you. You know, like I'm glad someone's saying something because, yeah, Ronaldo might be better off drinking Coke because it gives him some energy and he's not going to do the carnivore diet. And he can almost get away with it to some degree, but the average person doesn't work that hard. You know, they're not doing 2 to 3 hours a day of like fitness sessions and have immaculate recovery routines and they're biohacking the crap out of themselves. They're not doing it. Yeah. So the average person doing it, it's going to be absolutely deleterious.
Oh yeah, and like even these athletes, they don't get away with it forever. Like
no,
the ones that do have longevity, they might promote this stuff, but they don't actually consume this stuff. They don't believe in that crap. They're just doing it because they get the big pay. You know, like they get paid so much obscene amounts of money just for just say, look, you know, I drink Coke at the end of a football game or something like stupid like that. You know, but there's a number of fairly good, you know, anti-sugar sort of documentaries out there. So I'm going to name it. It's like Sugar Coated is one. Actually, one of them's got a good study from the French, where they actually demonstrated the addictive part of sugar with the rats. I've probably spoken about this before, but the rats that were addicted to heroin, like as soon as they introduced sugar water, they all, like 95% of them went straight to the sugar water. So, you know, just that's insane. That's how addictive it is. You know, so much. But there's a number of documentaries that you can check out online on YouTube for anyone who's watching. Okay, it's like check out the Kristen Kern's presentation. It's called How Big Sugar Influences Nutrition and Science. Fat Fiction's another good one. Beyond Impossible, about Beyond Burger, how it's actually, this is a good one as well. This Beyond Burger crap. And another thing people don't understand too, like people say, oh, like Bill Gates is heavily invested in this Beyond Burger sort of stuff. It's actually taxpayer funded. You know, like he actually lobbied the governments to actually fund this stuff. He actually is not spending his own money. He's actually using your taxpayer dollars to fund that crap. Okay. Then there's Sugar Coated. That's a good one. Corrupt Food Industry, Hidden Network. Okay, another Kristen Kearns is in that one as well. How he built the biggest food company in the world. We're talking about Nestle. Nestle is one of the most toxic food companies in the world and one of the largest. So there's a number of The Secrets of Sugar, Sweet Death, How Sugar is Making Us Sick, Sugar Rush, okay, the roots of the addiction. Let's see, how the sugar industry, how the sugar industry keeps you hooked. Actually, we might even watch that one. It's only 10 minutes. So,
yep. I think, and just looking at the chat, Professor Barquet, he wasn't the nutrition coach or exercise coach, but he was the advisory body that they were going to. It's the same way you might go to me for a consultation or like coaching services, something like a seminar. That's basically what Barquet was doing. So he was guiding athletes on, sort of a ketogenic approach, carnivore approach at the time, and also the exercise physiology standpoint of it. So,
he's actually still advising a few of the All Blacks now too, and he also did some analysis work with the Australian and New Zealand military, and he pretty much fixed up their training methods, because their training methods were just insane. Just do more. It's just absolute stupidity. It's just huge volume sort of mentality there. But so let's see. There we go.
Just so you're aware, guys, I'm going to head off in about 10 to 15 minutes, roughly.
No worries.
Lipid problems, cardiovascular disease, cancer, dementia.
The list of medical problems tied directly to the food we're being marketed.
We are actually making ourselves sicker by eating the processed food that the food industry has told us is good for us.
The industry doesn't have to tell us how much they've processed the food we're eating. The USDA released the first mandatory nutrition labels on food in 1990. By listing ingredients only, they masked what processing was doing to the product.
Problem is, it's not what's in the food, it's what's been done to the food. And you could not tell the difference between sugar that's, say, in fruit versus that which the company added.
As refined sugar becomes a key ingredient in almost everything, America sees a skyrocketing number of diabetes cases, affecting more than 30 million today. The condition can also lead to heart problems, kidney disease, nerve damage, even amputation. Dentists also begin to see an epidemic of tooth decay. That's exactly what Kristen Kearns saw. She's a pediatric dentist who uncovered the hidden history of the big sugar lobby through more than a decade of painstaking research.
As a dentist, I know that the sugar industry has really infiltrated into my profession for a very long time. They've sponsored dozens and dozens and dozens of scientific projects between the 40s and the 70s, and over 300 publications. And I think we've only scratched the surface on telling the story of what the sugar industry's been up to behind the scenes.
Kearns became an authority on sugar after first hearing the industry tell its big lie at a dental conference in 2007.
I was given a brochure by one of the keynote speakers about how dentists could help manage type 2 diabetic patients, and it didn't say anything about reducing sugar. And then a second keynote speaker ranked Lipton Brisk sweet tea, which had 44 grams of sugar, as a healthy drink. And I actually chased him down and said, how can you possibly say sweet tea is healthy? And his answer to me was, there is no evidence linking sugar to chronic disease. And I was literally stunned. I had no words. Tooth decay is the #1 chronic disease in children. How could you possibly say the sugar's not linked to chronic disease? So I started to wonder, had the sugar industry influenced what I was hearing at this dental conference?
Kearns began researching the sugar industry and stumbled upon an industry how-to guide for deceiving the public.
I typed in sugar to my local library catalog and found records to the Great Western Sugar Company. I'd never heard of the Great Western Sugar Company. I started looking through the finding aid and found these boxes with references to nutrition and policy. I couldn't believe that I'd found that, but I happened to be the first one to look at these confidential sugar industry documents just sitting unexplored in this collection.
Kearns had in her hands the smoking gun, records of a secret campaign by the trade group representing cane and beet sugar.
And this was a public relations campaign that set out to influence the Food and Drug Administration, who at the time was evaluating the safety of sucrose for the first time in the 1970s. So all of the documents I found showed how the sugar industry influenced that FDA report.
They also showed how the sugar industry was mirroring the successful campaign to shape government policy and public opinion launched by Big Tobacco decades earlier.
Sugar and tobacco companies definitely use the same strategies. And it's all about casting doubt on that evidence, linking a product to any kind of harmful effects, and then pairing that together with a PR campaign to get the message out.
What cigarette do you smoke, Doctor? The brand named most was Camel. Yes, surveys show more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. Smoke Camels, the cigarette so many doctors enjoy. The world's most thoroughly tested filter. That's Snow Fresh Filter Cool.
Kearns uncovered how the sugar industry laid its own trap to deceive.
The sugar industry was very good at following a line that tobacco industry has done quite well in, which is to obfuscate science.
How the sugar industry paid experts to downplay health risks.
The sugar industry paid scientists to find either that sugar had very little to do with a range of public health outcomes, or more successfully pointed the finger away from sugar towards fat. And that's why you had, through the 1970s, a very successful deflection by the sugar industry of regulation away from itself towards the regulation around the consumption of fat.
Are you making the most of your Marvel? Marvel makes cooking deliciously light and helps keep you looking just right when used in a calorie-controlled diet.
And so this started the low-fat craze. Example of that, skim milk. Turns out that dietary fat was actually good for us. Dietary fat actually suppressed cardiovascular disease. We took that out. And so basically, we engineered our products to be toxic.
And they didn't just make foods that were unhealthy, they actually promoted them as being the better choice.
Dry Delicious Light and Fit Green. It's no ordinary non-fat yogurt. Be light and fit and satisfied.
In these folders, it listed all of the research projects that they were funding, the scientific consultants that they were working with, the PR firms they hired, the ways in which they were connecting with the media to get their messages across. Their strategy was to publish science that would be conflicting with evidence that might be linking sugar to obesity or diabetes or heart disease or tooth decay.
Along with paying scientists to write reports in its favor and masking its involvement by hiding its funding, the Sugar Association pushes back on findings it doesn't like, a strategy that's become common practice in many parts of the food industry.
The food industry has tried to discredit people who get in its way. They have tried to discredit me, hopefully to this point to no avail. But, you know, they have their ways.
The sugar industry definitely comments on anything that I write. They write a letter to the editor. If I get media attention, they're writing press releases to try and counter what I say.
The sugar industry's done very well in terms of messing about with the science and avoiding regulation. The soda industry is really exhibit A here. A number of initiatives and a number of local ballots across the country tried very hard to introduce something called a soda tax.
Yeah, so that's just a little bit. That's sugar coated. So yeah, I mean it's some pretty sinister stuff. You know, a lot of this stuff is. And
I agree.
The problem is I don't really have such a big. I mean, obviously there's a lot of manipulation going on there, but we can understand that. We can see that. We can avoid that. You know. What gets me is the IQ of these idiots that actually follow these morons promoting this sugar diet. Like, seriously? I mean, they think, they keep saying, like, carbs in the absence of fat. Yeah, okay, you're just talking about the Randall cycle. Yeah, of course, if you try to eat both of them, that's where a lot of the inflammation comes from. But it's completely devoid of nutrients, and the whole job of the liver, like, is to turn that glucose, that excess glucose, into fat. And not to mention the brain damage and everything else that comes with it. So,
yeah,
it's insane.
It's nuts. I guess like practical takeaways we can take from this, like, what is the viewer here able to do about it? It's all good us coming on here and saying, oh, you know, sugar's bad and big pharma's evil and companies trying to profit off your sadness and sick health. What I'll probably say is I was having a conversation with my friend recently, and I'm privy to quite a bit of insider information in the UK and US supplement industry. There's one company called Solgar. You may have heard of them. They're in the gold sort of bottles. They're very popular over in my country, over here in England. And what they did recently is actually bought out by Nestle. So think processed food. So, you know, all these sort of companies are not just going from like the side of like, oh, big pharma, drugs, medication, studies, cherry picking data. There's also like the big sugar side of it, obviously. Then there's also the side of it from the supplements. So they've got a free prone attack. So whether you're trying to be healthy, take health supplements, trying to be, you know, healthy and follow a standard, you know, Western diet, eat well plate, you know, 5 a day, whatever it is, or if you're just trying to do some other stuff and like read the literature, you're bamboozled either way. So the average person does not have the education to understand and interpret this. Because you know, we see an article, we see an abstract. Oh, sugar may reduce, but but it may also not. What does the anecdote say? And people say, oh, carnivores do this, and we don't have studies. It's like, okay, we don't have studies, hard science, but we can extrapolate from biochemistry, which is hard science. Then follow the money.
Right.
It's the other side.
Yeah, see, nutrition is not a hard science. Biochemistry is. You know,
Right.
You know, even if you have a look like back in time, like go to the bones. That's hard history. That's hard science. Like, but there are studies. There's actually more studies on like ketogenic diets, for example, and examples than a vegetarian or vegan throughout history. If you go back even the last couple of 100 years, if you look at Salisbury steak, for example, like Dr. Salisbury, the Siege of Alexandria, the French with horse meat, there's just so many, like before the British started using citrus, they cured scurvy when they got to shore and started eating meat. You know, the British sailors. There's always been examples throughout history of how meat heals. They know, like these big companies, corporations, they know, you know, what, you know, meat heals. But the problem is,
you guys familiar with someone called Dr. Jan Wozniewski?
No.
So he's a good one to look into, DC. He'd be a useful thing to sort of post about your channel. I made the video about 2 years ago about it, but this guy basically, I think he's like a doctor or something. He's a practitioner of health. A lot of people come to him for like sickness, just all sorts of diseases and problems. What we basically got them on was our ancestral diet. When I say ancestral, I mean what we'd probably be eating roughly about 100 to 200 years ago, minus all the junk food and processed food. And what it was is we had different ratios, so like protein to fat to carbs. It's something like 1 gram of protein to 3 grams of fat to half a gram of carbs, something like that. Effectively, what you get is a high-fat ketogenic diet. And he found great results with that. And that was animal-based. So that was pork fat, lard, beef, you know, lamb, fish. Then the extra vegetables were like, if they were taken, it was things that you might get locally. So a handful of berries, if you could get them, and a few like healthier, you know, fermented foods, vegetables and things. It wasn't, you know, the carbs that are coming from like bizarre little things, you know, nothing too major. But I think if a lot of people just avoid that sort of methodology, they'd be a lot healthier, you know.
Oh yeah.
This was 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Ish.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check that out. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it just comes down to the fact that, you know, most people just don't have the education, and there's certainly, I mean, you would think though that they should have enough discernment to realize that, you know, people promoting this sugar diet are not trying to make them healthy or lean. You know, it's just a crock. But, you know, it gets pushed out there, and, you know, so many people follow it. It's just crazy. Yeah, it's nuts.
I'm gonna pop off now, guys. Sorry, I couldn't stay for longer, but quite.
No, you're right, my man.
Competing in 2 days, and 4 competitions, you don't stop really. It's a bit.
Yeah, you got a competition coming up soon, don't you?
Yeah, it's on Sunday. So I'll try and post updates on Instagram on the day or something. But
right.
Yeah, I
Well,
won't
good
be
luck,
too down.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah, good luck, brother.
Yeah.
Cheers, mate. Take care. Thanks for having me on as well. Appreciate that.
Anytime.
All right. Cheers. Bye bye.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a crazy world we're living in at the moment, man.
It
So,
is. It is.
what's been going on with your channel, mate? You've got a podcast up and running
I
now
have.
too, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and one which I've got to actually get you on board, mate.
Sure.
Yeah, I've got to get you on on one of the episodes. Yeah, so I started a new podcast early this year. Just to get back on YouTube. I think I'm not new to YouTube, but my channel has been slow growing, and so I thought this time I'll take the route of going down in the podcast world. And it's been good. It's been really good. I think the biggest thing that I'm trying to get out of it is to just get the voices of people out there, kind of like what Dave Mack is doing, in a way, but just adding a bit of my flair into it, and just really connecting with the people that I'm talking to, and getting their stories out, because that's a huge part of anyone's journey, really, with the hopes of, hey, if you listen to this person, you might actually connect with them and resonate with their story to make a change for yourself. Because I was just talking to a guy that I interviewed today on the podcast. Like, there's, as sad as it sounds, we are not making big strides at all with public health, and the powers that be aren't going to be doing anything anytime soon. Unfortunately, that's just, you'd have to be blind to not see what's going on. So what can we do as the little man here running? Well, if you're going to be in the midst of it all, why not get people's stories out there, start to sway people from your own closer networks, and maybe branch out to someone who's just out there, scrambling for anything to try and help them. And we win that way, because we need some wins, man. We need some wins. This is shocking.
We do. Yeah, you're right. It is shocking. I mean, I like this. We're talking about, like, for example, like the sugar diet thing, right? This is This is not a grassroots sort of movement. This is definitely what they call AstroTurf sort of movement. Because like all of a sudden it's just exploded on YouTube, right?
It has, yeah.
Yeah, it's just absolutely exploded because they're just pushing it. That's these companies paying, like, they pay all these big influencers, and and they are sellouts. They are complete and utter sellouts. Like Mark Bell, for example.
Mark Bell.
Like, he's been like carnivore for so long. I mean, he takes steroids and all these other supplements and stuff as well. But all of a sudden he goes to these. Now he calls it the sugar fast, like it's his own damn idea. How is that fasting? I was an idiot.
No, it's not.
But but the problem is the morons that follow it all too, and it's just like you said, like, no one's coming to save us. Like, we have to take our health into our own control and stop giving up control of our bodies and our health to other people, like doctors and corporations that want to make us sick.
Yeah.
We have to. There's no one else going to do it for us. We have to do the work ourselves. And fortunately, though, we do have people like Bart Kay and Richard Smith and Dr. Abs and Dr. Barry and all these other people that are out there that can make the information fairly easy, accessible. It's all free. It doesn't cost you anything, And we do our best to get the information out there too. But like you say, it's very slow going trying to promote. When you start talking about carnivore diet and cancer, for example, like in my case, your channel is very, very, very slow going. So, but we do what we can, and we keep slugging away. But you're right. No one else is going to come and save us. So
no, and I think people are seeing through the stupidity of this sugar diet thing, and so I think people are. I don't know. It's just me. I think this is just one of those. It's for entertainment, isn't it? I I've never ever taken Mark Bell very seriously.
No.
As a even when he was in his fitness days as well, he was a visual, he had a brand, he's out there, but now that he's talking about the sugar diet, I think it's just crazy. It sounds insane.
The thing is, they're influencers, right? So they're gonna flip flop to whatever is popular at any given moment. So that they keep changing their style. I mean, that's what it looks like on camera anyway. It's certainly not what they do in real life.
No,
I mean, it's total BS. That is, because he's not going to risk his health. Not in that way. I mean, he does take steroids and other supplements, but I mean, and their sugar diet on top of steroids. My God, think what that's doing to his body. So I think
only time will tell.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But the problem is that they're going to hurt a lot of people in the process. Well, they keep trying to get their clicks and their watches and all this sort of stuff, and build their channels. How many people are they going to hurt while they're doing that? That's the
exactly.
Problem. I don't care what they do. They do what if they think they can get away with that crap, and do it. And you see, like was it FAFO? You go on the sugar diet, you fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
But the problem is, like, it's the same as that. Like we're talking about with the athletes, the pro athletes, and say, "Oh, look, we eat this cereal, we eat this, we drink this Coca-Cola," and people actually do it. They follow them, because they think, "Oh, I want to look like Mark Bell, so I'm going to eat that crap too, and that'll make me lean and fit and healthy."
Yeah,
healthy doesn't even come into it.
No. It's strategic though, isn't it? Like picking on I think it is. You pick on athletes and you offer them a bunch of money to promote it because, hey, they've got the bod, they've got the accolades, they look good, that people look up to them. You can't do that with politicians. You can't give, or an actor, give them the same deal and think they're going to do better. No, it's the sports stars that do very well with these these sugar bombs that they get paid for. Yeah,
that's right. Because like today, like nowadays, it's all about the big muscles, the bodybuilder physique, and all this other crap. They think that the only thing that's important is being lean and muscly and strong, right? So you get these influencers that look like that, and you tell them to promote all this sugar. Will give you a heap of money, and of course, imbeciles will follow it because, oh, look, they're good. It's such a lot of shit. It really is.
Absolutely.
But, yeah. I just want to share one more thing with people. So, I did say before, we won't worry about it because we already talked about it, but here's a NIH, PubMed sort of paper, and there's like, if you click on this link, there are absolutely dozens and dozens of these proof studies talking about fructose in the liver, right? Causing fatty liver disease. And so I'm just going to read this excerpt, and it doesn't really mean a whole lot, but I'm going to do it anyway. So fructose overconsumption may result in insulin resistance, oxidative stress, inflammation, elevated uric acid levels. That's another thing it does. Increased blood pressure and increased triglyceride concentrations. Now that the triglyceride, the yellow fatty tissue that actually the liver makes when you eat fructose, which gets into the bloodstream in both the blood and liver. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is a term widely used to describe excessive fatty infiltration in the liver in the absence of alcohol, autoimmune disorders, or viral hepatitis. It is attributed to obesity, high sugar and fat consumption. Now when we're talking about the combinations, like in most of your processed foods and things like that, there's always a seed oil, right? Which the fat they're talking about animal fat, but it does make it worse when you eat the fat and the fructose or sugar together, of course, because you're activating the Randle cycle. And that's what causes that inflammation together. And being sedentary. If untreated, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease can progress to non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. Okay, it's NASH, characterized by inflammation and mild fibrosis. Now, fibrosis is damaged tissue to the liver. Okay, now there are a few tests that you can get done when you get your blood test done. There's a few levels in which I actually do explain in some of my blood test results, so you can go check that out. It leads to NASH. Okay, you got mild fibrosis, damage, which is scarring tissue. Okay, fibrosis is scar tissue on your liver, in addition to fat infiltration, and eventually advanced scar tissue deposition. Okay, cirrhosis? Yeah, cirrhosis of the liver, and finally liver cancer, which constitutes the culmination of the disease. Okay, so notably, fructose is recognized as a major mediator of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, as a significant correlation between fructose intake and the degree of inflammation and fibrosis, as has been found in preclinical and clinical studies. Moreover, fructose is a risk factor for liver cancer development. So it doesn't get much worse than that. Okay,
no, it doesn't.
It really doesn't. The quantities, the amount that people, and when people say, "Oh, but honey's carnivore," for example, like I saw there's an influencer, a carnivore influencer, like a little while ago. She made, I'm not going to name her, but she made carnivore chocolate, and so which is just, there's no such thing. Okay, there's no such thing as carnivore chocolate, for God's sake. Cocoa is not carnivore, and honey, even if you get the most pure, clean, organic honey, at minimum 42% of that is fructose. Okay, the rest is glucose, right? And the combination of that fructose and glucose is just, mate, that's just cancer on a stick. All right, so it's once in a while, yeah, sure, fine. Like if you're gonna fast for the winter, yeah, eat that stuff. But yeah, the problem is that people are eating this all year round, multiple times a day. They're causing great, all this inflammation and scarring tissue on their organs and everything else every day, all day. Yeah. And that's why we've got so much chronic disease. It's absolutely, the situation it's gone too far. It really has.
Yeah.
And these it's just, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I mean, I think the carnivore movement, let's say it doesn't work, for example, but look at myself. I'm 10 years in remission now from cancer. I've spoken to Sammy Tagano. She's pretty much in remission from colon cancer, stage 4. There's so many other people that I'm talking to. I've even spoken to people who had dementia that have reversed it with a high-fat diet. Things like that. And look at Dave Mack. He's spoken to 1,100 interviews now, 1,100 interviews with
crazy
people that have reversed all kinds of conditions. So how many studies have that much proof? Zero. There's not a study in the world that has that much proof already. And these anecdotal stories, you say they're anecdotal, but that's how it's done. That's how nutrition studies are done. They're all anecdotal, so that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
So I think so what's your how's your coaching going anyway?
Good, mate. Good. Yeah. It's a, you know, I don't really like to say I'm fishing out for clients because I'm not really. I'm what I'm really doing is I'm just all I'm doing is just getting the word out there that there's a way to improve your health. With whatever I'm talking about, whether it's weight loss or reversing diabetes or stuff like that. There is a way, and if you need accountability, I'm there. That's it. I think that's what's most important is that people need to know that they have support. I didn't realize, since going into coaching, that because I was so isolated in my own silo. This is my journey, and I know what it's like. I know, I know the struggles. I know what people are going through, but it's really different when you actually speak to someone who's going through it in the motions. And one of the biggest things that I'm finding is, talking about sugar is, the addiction. It's rough.
Yeah,
it is so hard. And I think we talked about it in the last live that I did with you. It's when people say carnivore is easy, look, with a grain of salt, and if you just look at it in face value, look at what the diet actually is, it is simple. It is a very simple diet to do. But for a lot of people, it's not easy, especially if you've been a person who's been so conditioned and so addicted to carbohydrates for so long. It can be very challenging. So as a coach, I find that challenging.
Yeah, you're right. Like, I think the carnivore diet itself is easy to do if you do it right. Okay, I mean, it's not that hard to work out. And I mean, I know a lot of people like to be sort of spoon-fed, just eat this sort of thing. But generally speaking, like, it's not hard to work out for yourself. The hardest part of being on the carnivore diet is abstaining from the other crap. The crap food is just trying to stay away from the other stuff. And it does help you with, like, if you eat enough, if you are eating a lot of food on the carnivore diet, enough for the right food, it does help to, like, because you eat to satiety, it does make it easier not to go to the junk food and stuff like that, the sugar and carbohydrates and that. But it is still very difficult. It's still very difficult. Yeah.
I think the more and more I'm really seeing how addictive it is. Like, I know for myself how addictive sugar is. I'm a sugar addict myself, but seeing it in the extreme where you can compare it to other addictions. Like, imagine, and this is why I'm very much, I highly suggest everyone listen to Bart Kay when he says, do not change your diet overnight, because I have seen many people just cut carbohydrates out of their diet immediately, and it's the same symptoms that you get in alcohol withdrawal. It's the same symptoms you get with drug withdrawals. People
it's the same. Like, it doesn't matter what the addiction is, it's all the same. And it's kind of like when you're giving up an addiction, it's kind of like you're losing a friend as well. Because you get that dopamine hit. It makes you feel good when you eat it. Of course, you always regret it afterwards because it's bad for you. But this is one thing. Actually, me and Abs were talking about this as well. Like especially for like a vegan going to the carnivore diet, someone who's and depending on their condition, I think you should individualize the length of transition time, because some people who've been addicted to, like, if a vegan, for example, they've been doing it for years, they're going to need a lot more time to transition onto the carnivore diet. Otherwise it's going to be very rough for them, and they'll give it up.
They'll crash out. Easy.
They just crash out. I think some people, I think some of the people that do quit, the more hardcore people. They like the really dogmatic people. They just like, oh, it has to be carnivore, has to be. They just burn out, you know. And I think a lot of them do that. A lot of people burn out, and So, and then when they fail, they think, oh no, it's too hard to maintain, sort of thing. But you're human, you know. You got to give yourself some leeway as well. Like you can't be 100% of the time. You know, no one.
Yes. No.
But you know, sugar addiction is real, and it's really hard to. And it's not like actually I was talking about with Jonathan about this too. One of the things I found the hardest to give up was protein powders. They're so addictive, you know. They're crazy addictive. Like they're flavored. Like they not so much the sugar content, but they do have sweeteners and they do have flavorings and colorings and all these other things, you know. So it's very much addictive, very much.
Yeah. So when you think about, you know, people promoting the sugar diet and people that are jumping on, you can kind of see the appeal to it, especially if you think, oh, this might be, you know, people who've been struggling on the carnivore diet. You know, I'm not losing weight, or I'm not, you know, I'm still feeling this. Oh, the sugar diet, try that. Like, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah. Excellent. I mean, it's really hard. I mean, you're right. I mean, it's just it's easy to do the carnivore diet if you do it properly, and it's easy to eat this way. But it is very difficult to give up the carbs and the sugars and things like that. Like, especially when it's all around you. Like when you go shopping, 99% of what you see in the supermarket is crap. It's all chemicals masquerading as food, and a lot of it's all sugar and so on. Like if you look at how many aisles like are just full of soda drinks, you know, and full of candy and full of chocolate and everything, and then you've got like one little, you know, ice box for meat, you know. It's crazy, but you know, and it's all big colorful advertising and all that sort of stuff. You know, it's all around you too. Then you walk outside and there's bakeries and there's all sorts of other stuff, and you think, oh damn, you know, I'd love a pie. Yeah, that's got meat. Yeah, it's got to be all right. You know. I mean, the temptation is always around you. You know, so
it is.
Yeah, but I think if you give yourself a little bit of leeway, and the longer that you're on the carnivore diet, the easier it does get. You know,
100%. Yeah.
Like, actually, I saw some of your before and after photos on Instagram.
Yeah,
they were pretty shocking. They were pretty shocking, man.
I'll tell you what.
I mean, you look much younger now too, actually.
Oh, thank you. I feel younger. I mean, I can't even. Look, I did I did the sugar diet. Basically, it was a sugar diet for a very long time, and when I competed in powerlifting, so I shouldn't say I competed. I did local competitions, but competing, yeah, I did, and you know, I would load myself up with sugar for day. I would smash a dozen of the Krispy Kreme donuts. You know, just to get me through a session. And there was, I'll tell you what, there was an influencer back in the day, 10 years ago, probably 10 years ago. He used to, you know, the Coke bottles, like a 600ml Coke, and you get like 3 teaspoons of Moccona coffee, and just chug it, put it down there, shake it up, drink it just before a session. I remember one time I was outside a Jets gym and I did that. I did it, you know, just got the teaspoons of coffee, put them in my mouth, chugged down some, you know, some Coke, and hit up a session, and I was having palpitations. Like, it's And this is from a fitness influencer. So this is why I'm saying the sugar diet's not a new thing. You've got these people in the fitness space that have been saying sugar is good for you.
They keep saying it's a new thing, but we were raised on this sugar diet.
Yes,
The last, I'm 52. This diet has been around for as long as I've been alive.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, and look at all the disease that it's caused. It's insane. It's crazy. But they keep repurposing it. They keep saying, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with sugar. Sugar by itself is great." These people are absolutely just so ignorant. It's not funny. And of course, this Cole Robertson bloody moron. He's an absolute imbecile, empty-headed imbecile. And he thinks that he's created this new thing. Like sugar without fat it's going to make you cut. What a dipshit.
Yeah.
But again, again, I don't care if they do it themselves. I mean, you go ahead. Eat all the sugar you want. Fuck around and find out. You go for it. But the thing is, they're going to damage a lot of people in the process.
Yeah. No, they absolutely are. And I remember as a kid. Now I'm going back about 25, almost 30 years ago now. In New Zealand, they used to. I mean, I'm sure they still do, but Sanitarium, Weet-Bix, they sponsored the All Blacks, and there was an ad on TV, with these little kids, and these All Black players, seeing who can eat the most, how much Weet-Bix does an All Black eat, and I can't remember who it was. It wasn't John Olomu but it was someone. He had about 16. A lot of these bloody Weet-Bix cardboard things, it mashed up in a bowl, and he's just downed it. And I remember as a kid, and you can't have Weet-Bix. Hey,
remember the ad? How many can you eat?
Well, that's it. Yeah, that's it. But it was the All Blacks, because it was the All Blacks that did it. And every New Zealand kid wanted to be an All Black, and of course, you can't eat Weet-Bix without sugar. So you're scooping on sugar on top of the Weet-Bix. So
it was a shitstorm. I'd eat 14 of them, and it'd be covered in sugar, right? And just a minimal amount of milk, because I don't like them going soft.
Don't like them soft, yeah.
Then you have scoops of brown sugar or something like that, just to
honey, yeah.
So basically, you're eating cardboard with sugar. That's all you're eating.
It was
disgusting.
Yeah.
But it's the same with like Nutri-Grain. There's another one, Sanitarium, like the Iron Man. I was big into the
Iron Man. Yeah.
The Iron Man. Like Grant Kenny.
Yep.
Get the Nutri-Grain. Are you an Iron Man? It's like the same thing. Absolutely disgusting. And now have a look at. You go to the supermarket. There is Kit Kat cereal, Milo cereal, and all these other.
I know.
Like, it's absolutely toxic waste, disgusting crap. It really is.
Yeah, putrid.
Oh, Kaleidoscope Mine, 3 a.m. Jeez, you're up.
3 a.m. That'd be in the US, right? Yeah.
Up early or up late?
Up late, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Anyways, how have you been, man? It's been a long time. I haven't actually spoken to you in a long time.
No, I've been good, man. I'm actually studying biochemistry on
nice
from MIT at the moment. In America online.
Nice.
And I'm also doing a coaching course for breathwork.
Nice.
Yeah. So,
nice.
Yeah, I'm working that out together, and I'm really fascinated at the moment how the biochemistry of the body reacts to breath and the diet, like carnivore diet, because like things like choline rich foods and nitric oxide and all these other benefits that we get from the food but like also from breath work and that feed our brain and our bodies, and all of that together is like breath work and carnivore diet is it's an incredible thing that's happening. Like I really want to connect all this together to help with. I think it'd really help with chronic disease, but make a great athlete as well. But
yeah,
there's just so many benefits that you get from doing this stuff. It's incredible.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
And like this stuff is free to do as well. Like it doesn't cost you any extra to eat carnivore. It's actually cheaper, but breathwork is free, right?
Yeah.
And it's amazing how it reacts with you in your body, and it's actually quite an ancient process as well. It is thousands of years old. Yeah, breathwork is thousands of years old, and it's just incredible stuff. I mean, I've been doing breathwork for the last 10 years now, but because I started doing breathwork before I started doing carnivore, because I actually try and help with moving again.
Yeah.
So I've decided to I found a really good course that I really incorporate. I've got 30 different methods for breath work now.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to start doing that. And so I'm going to, hopefully soon, I'm going to build a website and I'll start coaching people. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. But I think there's a lot of benefits involved, like adding like strength and conditioning, the breath work, and the diet. Now that the diet is perfect, I mean, it's just incredible benefits what it can do for someone, I think. So yeah. Yeah. Where is Joff based? Yeah, he's just down the road actually.
Down the road, actually.
4 hours down the road.
Yeah. Friends in close places, huh?
It's raining.
Nah, it stopped raining now. Yeah, it stopped raining. But it was slow going with this winter. It was creeping in, and then this morning, bang, right on the dot. It's cold. Yeah.
George is focusing on learning the plant toxins at the moment.
Yes.
Steroids and oxalates, lectins, and
very interesting topic.
Yeah, it is. It's all very interesting stuff, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's. I love the science side of things, the biochemistry side of things. I think is really cool. I wouldn't mind studying anthropology too. Actually, I think that's really cool. Like to go to the history of humanity as well. So because I think that, I mean, like since the agricultural revolution, we've actually devolved a lot. Because our structure is smaller than what it was before. When we're hunter gatherer, we're always much bigger frame, much bigger brain, and everything. So I think we really devolved. I mean, that all came across basically because we had an energy crisis where we pretty much hunted species to extinction. So we needed to find another way to eat. But since that happened, like entire cultures died out. When they went to farming, So a lot of the ruins that we see today is basically because they went to farming. So it's really interesting stuff.
No, it is. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. He was talking about the All Blacks. I thought he may have been in New Zealand. Yeah, he's actually from New Zealand. He grew up in New Zealand, but he's living in Brisbane at the moment in Australia. So, yeah, he's a Kiwi.
Technically, by passport, but I mean,
he's an Aussie Kiwi.
yeah, Aussie Kiwi. Yeah, man. So exciting stuff happening in your front. It sounds like it.
Well, hopefully. I mean, I've got a lot of work to do. I'm trying to. I mean, it takes time when you're doing these courses. You're doing there's ongoing study. Like I've always ongoing studies. Like there's always doing more research. You have to.
Yeah.
I think life is a learning experience. So you have to keep
Absolutely.
learning for your whole life. I think it's one thing that it really helps. Certainly, it has helped me on my health journey as well. It's not just the fact that I learned how to eat properly and learned about all this BS that's going on with the food industry and so on, but to have something to do to stay focused on is a really good mindset, I think.
Yeah.
To keep learning.
Yeah.
I think that's one reason why I've done so well with the cancer itself. So
Yeah.
I think it's all good. But apart from that, though, I'm still trying to get organized so that I can return to Japan, because my wife is living in Japan at the moment, so I want to go back and rejoin her. So there's a lot of work to do.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Yeah, it does. Yeah, but that's good that you're keeping yourself self-educated and get yourself, and I guess that when you've got the education as well, it's very humanistic that you've got to share it, and I think that's how we evolved as humans. That's how we got to where we are at our peak. We didn't do it because we were in isolation. We did it because we learned off our elders, we learned off people, learned off different tribes, different people from different places, and that's what we're doing right now. So I think it's a very human trait.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, very much. It's like life's like history is all about stories being told over generations. So that's where it all comes from. And even though there's a lot of people trying to change history or rewrite it and hide history from us, if we keep telling the stories, then the stories will survive. So I think it's very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Kingdom Culture is another Kiwi, mate. Another Kiwi.
Another Kiwi. Yeah. Come follow me on my YouTube as well and my Instagram.
George is going to revisit the hormones next. Yeah, the hormones are very important.
Yes.
The last 3 years, I've done literally thousands of hours of study. It's good. Yeah, time to put that knowledge to good use. Yeah, good on you, George.
Absolutely. No, good on you, mate. Good on you. That's the way it should go. I think the coaching is starting to, it's becoming a bigger movement. I think you've got these people that are, that have experienced health, improvements and changes in their own lives, and now they want to pay it forward. I think this is what I'm talking about. Like, this is the movement we're seeing, and it is a very humanistic trait. So I think, I'm all for it. I think we need more coaches. It's good, mate. It's good.
I think we just need. This is a real grassroots movement. It's a people's movement. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's spreading, and that's a good thing. Like, it's getting easier to talk about it now.
Absolutely.
And more bigger names are talking about it now as well. So that really helps. And that's where we really need to make a difference too. So Anyway, guys, I think we've done our constitutional duty. We've done almost 2 hours.
Yes, we have.
Yeah. So we're going to leave it there tonight, guys. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for participating in the chat. Really appreciate it. Another way for you to help get the message out, please like, share, and subscribe. That will really help to boost the channels and get the message out there as well. So I hope you enjoyed tonight's chat, and we'll see you again next week, perhaps. There's another live on Monday morning, our time, and you're all most welcome to join us then too.
Awesome.
Okay, see you, everyone.